Arya was only 16 when her life changed forever. She lived in Sector 9B of Earth's outer colony zone, a quiet dome city under a reddish sky. Life was peaceful there, and Arya spent most of her time in school, dreaming of stars and reading about old Earth history. But behind her calm life was a secret one so big, it could shatter the lies of an entire galaxy. She never knew she was special. She thought she was just another schoolgirl with average grades, a best friend named Dino, and a small home where she lived with her aunt. But everything changed the day she fainted during science class. It started with a sharp pain in her chest. Then, her vision turned white, and the world slipped away. When she woke up, her teacher was gone, her classmates were staring, and two strangers in gray suits stood near her desk. "Miss Arya," one of them said coldly, "you're coming with U.S." They showed her a badge, one she had seen before in history books. Galactic Trust Enforcement Division, GTED. No one ever saw them unless something serious had happened. Her aunt tried to stop them, but it was no use. Arya was taken away in a black shuttle with no windows, her wrists scanned, her blood tested, her questions ignored. She was brought to a quiet lab underground. There, an old man with silver hair and calm eyes looked at her across a glass wall. "Arya," he said, "do you know what you are?" She shook her head. "You carry something in your blood. Something from the old days. Something human." She frowned. "I am human." The man smiled, but it wasn't kind. "That's what they told you, but the truth is more complicated." In the year 2381, humanity had changed. After the war with the Zorvans, a peace treaty forced Earth's leaders to mix human DNA with peaceful alien species to prevent future aggression. Most of the new generations like Arya were believed to be modified. The government said full humans no longer existed. It was safer that way. But now, Arya was proof they had lied. Her blood showed 100% pure human DNA. That meant someone had hidden her. Someone had broken the treaty. Someone knew she was different. And now the government wanted to silence her. Locked in a quiet white room, Arya tried to stay calm. But fear was growing inside her like a fire. Dano must be wondering where she was. Her aunt, too. She had no way to contact them. And worse, the gray suits had scanned her memories. They knew everything, her dreams, her hopes, her life. A soft light blinked on the wall. "Arya," a voice said, "you have one visitor." She didn't expect to see the old man again. But this time, he looked different. Sad, almost tired. "You don't know me," he said, "but I knew your parents." Her heart skipped. "My parents died in a mining accident." He shook his head. "That's what they told you. The truth is, your mother was a scientist. Your father was a pilot. Both were part of a secret mission. They were trying to save what was left of humanity. You were born during that mission." He handed her a small cube. It lit up with a hologram. A woman's face appeared, gentle eyes, long dark hair, and a voice that shook Arya's soul. "My sweet Arya," the message said, "if you're hearing this, we didn't make it. But you must know the truth. You are human, and they fear you. Because of that, the treaty wasn't made to protect peace. It was made to erase us." Tears rolled down Arya's cheeks. Her parents had died for this. For her, that night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind was racing. The Galactic Trust had lied for over 80 years. Everyone believed the story that full humans had disappeared. But Arya was living proof it wasn't true. And if the world found out, it would shake the stars. The next day, Arya was told she would be transferred to a station orbiting Kepler-6. "For your safety," they said. But she knew better. They wanted her gone. Forever. She sat in her room, thinking, planning. She had one chance. The cube her mother gave her was more than a message. It was a data key. It held proof, genetic maps, mission logs, even recordings of secret meetings. If She could get that data out, broadcast it across the netgrid. The truth would spread. Billions would know. The lies would fall. But first, she had to escape. As the guards came to escort her to the shuttle, Arya looked calm. But hidden in her sleeve was a tool, something she had built in science class months ago. It looked like a pen, but it could unlock basic electronic doors. She needed perfect timing. As they led her through the corridor, she waited until they passed the security gate. Then, she dropped to the floor and screamed. One of the guards knelt to check her. In that second, she jabbed the tool into the panel. The lights blinked red. The gate burst open. And Arya ran. Sirens followed her. Lights flashed. But she kept running through metal tunnels, past labs and doors. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to find a way out. She reached a hangar. A single scout ship sat on the launch pad. Small but fast. Jumped inside, closed the hatch, and hit the ignition. The engines roared. Unauthorized launch detected. A robotic voice warned. She didn't care. As the doors opened and the blackness of space appeared before her, Arya's heart beat like a drum. She was free, but this was just the beginning. Arya's hands shook as she gripped the controls of the small scout ship. She had never flown anything real before, only a school simulator. But she didn't have a choice. The hangar doors were open, alarms were blaring behind her, and in the distance, security drones were already chasing. Come on. Come on. She whispered, pressing buttons and pulling levers. The ship trembled, then lifted off the platform. The engine gave a hard push, and suddenly, Arya shot forward into the sky above the base. Outside the atmosphere dome, space spread out like a black ocean full of stars. Behind her, flashes of red lights blinked on the surface of the planet. They were searching, hunting. She wasn't safe yet. Arya set the ship to manual and pushed forward, heading toward open space. A voice echoed from the console. Warning, pursuit detected. 3 units approaching from rear. She glanced at the screen. 3 black dots were closing in. Fast. They won't give up that easily, she muttered. The ship didn't have weapons. It was only for short-distance scouting. Her only hope was to lose them in the asteroid belt nearby. She turned sharply, ignoring the pressure in her chest as the ship twisted. The stars seemed to spin. The belt of rocks ahead grew larger, a field of floating stones and broken moons. Most pilots avoided it. It was too dangerous. But Arya had no choice. She entered the field at full speed. The ship shook as small rocks bounced off the hull. Her eyes stayed locked on the screen, dodging sharp turns, weaving between giant floating stones. Behind her, one of the drones slammed into a rock and exploded. One down. She breathed. Another chased close behind. It fired a shot. Bright blue energy lit up the dark. It missed her by meters. Her heart pounded. She spotted a large cratered asteroid and steered the ship toward it. Just before impact, she dived low and slid into a narrow gap between 2 spinning boulders. The drone wasn't as lucky. It clipped the side and spiraled into a collision. 2, she whispered, sweat on her forehead. The last drone stayed far back. It didn't follow her into the narrow gap. Instead, it hovered at the edge, tracking her from a distance. Signal lost, the ship's voice said. Pursuit terminated. Arya didn't believe it. Not really. She knew they would try again. The Galactic Trust didn't forgive mistakes, and now she had done more than escape. She had stolen proof of their greatest lie. She floated in silence now, drifting among the quiet giants of space. The stars outside blinked like distant eyes. Her body relaxed, but her mind stayed sharp. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the small cube again. The message from her mother was still saved inside. Arya, the woman's voice echoed. You must find the Earth Archive. Arya replayed the message 3 times, each time trying to understand more. It's hidden in the ruins of old Earth, the original files. The true history. If you get there, the galaxy will know the truth. But old Earth was far. It had been abandoned after the climate collapse. No one lived there now. The planet was dead, or so the story said. Still, it was the only lead she had. She opened the ship's nav system and searched for Earth. A red dot blinked on the edge of the system. Warning, planet classified. No access without council permission. She bypassed the warning and locked the course. She was going home, though she had never seen the real Earth before. Hours passed as the ship floated through deep space. Arya sipped water from the survival pack and wrapped herself in the emergency blanket. The cabin was cold. She stared at the stars and thought of her aunt. Of Dino, of the school days that felt like years ago. She wanted to go back. She wanted to be normal. But there was no going back now. A light on the console blinked. Incoming transmission. Unknown source. She hesitated. It could be a trap. But she tapped, accept. A voice crackled through. You don't know me, but I know who you are, and I want to help. Arya narrowed her eyes. Who are you? My name is Joran. I used to work for the Trust, until I saw what they did to people like your parents. Why are you helping me? Because I believe the truth matters. And because you're not alone. The screen flickered and showed Joran's face. He was in his 30s with short dark hair and a tired expression. I saw your escape, he said. You did well. But the council will send hunters next. They don't fail. What should I do? She asked. Keep going to Earth. But you won't make it alone. I'll meet you at Station Wren, near the Pluto Gate. I'll bring fuel and supplies. But don't take too long. They've already issued a galaxy-wide alert for your capture. The screen went dark. Arya sat back. She didn't know if she could trust Joran. But for now, he was her only chance. She arrived at Station Wren 2 days. Later, it was an old mining outpost, barely functioning. The metal structures floated like ghosts in orbit. Rusty, forgotten, unwanted. She docked carefully, heart pounding. Inside, the station was empty, except for one man. Joran stood near the landing bay, holding a small pack. You came, he said. So did you, Arya replied. He handed her the pack. Food, fuel, and this. Inside was a bracelet-like device. Wear it, he said. It blocks tracking signals. They won't find you so easily. She slipped it on. The metal felt cold, but comforting. I also gave you something else. He added. Arya raised an eyebrow. Joran smiled slightly. A backup of your cube. In case they catch you, the data will live on. She nodded. Thank you. Be careful. He said. They will stop at nothing. Arya climbed back into her ship and set the course. Earth was close now, and the truth was waiting to be found. Arya stared out the window of her small ship. A blue and green planet was slowly rising before her, dark clouds swirling over its surface. Patches of land broken by oceans of ash and ice. This was Earth, the real Earth, the forgotten one. She had only seen it in history videos. But those were clean, beautiful pictures made for schools. The truth was different. Earth looked damaged, sad, like a place that had been loved once, and then left behind. Her ship shook gently as it entered the upper atmosphere. The heat shields burned bright for a moment. Then the craft cooled as it dropped lower through thick gray clouds. Entering Earth gravity, the ship system said. Landing protocols ready. Arya scanned the surface. She needed to find the Earth Archive, the place her mother mentioned in the cube. Old records said the archive was hidden under the ruins of the United Earth Hall. Deep in what used to be North America. She found the location. A small mountain range buried under layers of dust and debris. Ancient towers still stood, broken and bent. Trees had grown wild, their roots twisting through old roads. Nature had returned, but not with beauty, only silence. She landed the ship in a flat open field near the ruins. A few birds flew away. As her ship touched down, the ground was cracked, dry, and smelled like old stone. Stepping out, Arya felt strange. The wind here was real, not recycled. The sky above was cloudy but wide and endless. She took a deep breath. The air was thin, but clean enough to breathe. She walked slowly toward the ruins, keeping the cube in her pocket. With each step, she felt closer to something important, something hidden, something forgotten by the galaxy. Inside the ruins, dust covered everything. Tall broken walls, shattered glass, rusted signs. One sign still had faded letters on it, United Earth Archive. Center. Her heart jumped. She entered through a cracked door. The inside was dark, but her wristband gave off a soft light. She followed old steps down into the earth. Each level was older, colder, and deeper. Then she found a steel door with a strange symbol, 2 hands holding a star. The cube in her pocket glowed. Arya pulled it out. The cube floated from her hand and hovered in front of the door. A light beam scanned it. Then the door creaked and slowly opened. Inside was a wide, round chamber. Screens lined the walls, covered in dust. In the center, a metal table stood, with a small glowing device. Arya walked toward it. The device lit up and a voice spoke. "Welcome to the Earth Archive. Human presence detected. ID confirmed, Arya." A soft light filled the room. Screens turned on. Data began to flow across them, images, texts, voices, all showing the past. The real past. She saw news clips from 2120 to 2380, the beginning of the Zorvan War, the human resistance, the peace treaty, and then the lie. Leaders had agreed to change the human genome, not to protect peace, but to control future generations, to stop rebellion, to erase the strong, the stubborn, the free thinkers. The galaxy had been fed a false story for decades. And now, Arya had the proof. She backed up the files into her cube, into her wristband, and into a hidden backup drive. Joran gave her. As she finished, the archive's voice spoke again. "Warning. Signal detected. Hostiles approaching." Her eyes widened. "They found me." Outside, the sky darkened. A black ship hovered above the field. Sleek, silent, deadly. Trust hunters, 3 figures in armored suits, stepped onto the ground. They moved fast and without sound, scanning the area. One of them found her ship. Inside the archive chamber, Arya closed the vault door and backed away. She had only minutes. She looked around. There had to be another way out. Old Earth buildings always had emergency exits. She ran to the far wall and found a metal hatch half covered in stone. She pulled hard. It opened. She slipped through the narrow tunnel, her heart pounding. The tunnel twisted and turned, then led upward. She could hear footsteps far behind. They were inside now. Didn't stop. After 15 minutes of climbing, she found another hatch. This one opened outside, at the base of a hill, covered in dry grass. She crawled out and rolled down, catching her breath. She had the data, but they were close. She tapped her wristband and sent a silent signal to Joran. "I found it. There. Here. I need help." No reply. She tapped again. Still nothing. She looked up. The black ship was scanning the ground. A beam of red light swept across the ruins. Arya knew she couldn't go back to her ship. They would be watching. She needed to hide. She ran across the fields, heading toward a broken highway in the distance. Tall trees had grown through the old roads. A good place to vanish. Behind her, the black ship turned and began searching in a new direction. She slid down a ditch and crawled under a fallen bridge. Her breath was sharp, her body shaking from cold and fear. But her mind stayed strong. She had the truth. She just needed to survive, long enough to share it. Night came quickly. The sky turned purple, then black. Arya wrapped herself in her emergency blanket and sat quietly under the bridge. She watched the stars. She thought of her mother's voice, of the words in the message. You are human, and they fear you because of that. She felt something deep inside her. Not just fear, not just pain, something stronger. Hope that she had escaped. She had found the truth, and she had the fire to fight, even if she was alone. But she wasn't completely alone. Her wristband blinked. Message received. Extraction plan in progress. Hold position. Joran, Arya smiled. They hadn't won yet. Arya crouched under the broken bridge as cold wind swept through the silent land. The stars above blinked quietly, but her eyes stayed locked on the sky. Somewhere out there, Joran was coming. Somewhere behind her, the hunters were searching. She held her breath and checked the wristband. The message from Joran was still there. Extraction plan in progress. Hold position, but she knew the hunters wouldn't wait. The red scan lights from their ship had moved toward the archive ruins. That gave her some time, but not much. Her heart beat fast. She looked at the small cube again. The proof inside it could change everything. But only if it got out. She thought carefully. Stay hidden or take the risk? She chose the risk. Arya crawled out from under the bridge and moved quietly through the tall grass. The wind helped cover her sound. She kept her head low and eyes sharp. She wasn't heading back to her ship. She knew it was being watched. Instead, she made her way toward an old broadcast tower she had spotted from the hilltop earlier. It was broken, tilted to one side and half covered in vines. But if any part of it still worked, she could use it to send the truth into space. If Joran didn't reach her, at least the galaxy would still hear her voice. She reached the tower after 20 minutes of careful running and hiding. Its base was cracked, but the power box still had blinking lights. Please work, she whispered. She connected the cube to the panel using a wire from her kit. The screen lit up. System reboot. Partial power available. That was enough. She selected a frequency, not just one, but hundreds. Open channels, old army channels, school channels, cargo routes, anything that could carry a signal. Then she pressed record. The screen blinked. A small red light showed it was recording. Arya took a deep breath. My name is Arya. I was born on Earth's outer colony, Sector 9B. I'm 16 years old. I was told I was not fully human, that pure humans no longer exist. She looked into the lens with steady eyes, but that was a lie. She held up the cube. This contains proof, real proof. My blood tests, genetic scans, and the Earth archive records. The Galactic Trust lied to everyone. Pure humans were hidden, not gone. My parents were part of a secret mission. They died protecting the truth. The wind pushed her hair back, but her voice stayed clear. If you can hear me, please listen. The peace treaty was not about safety. It was about control, about erasing real human history. She looked down for a moment, then back. I don't know how long I have. But I'll fight, I'll survive. And I will never stop until the truth is free. She stopped the recording and hit transmit. The signal bars flashed across the screen. Transmitting. Then a red warning flashed. Unauthorized broadcast. Signal jam detected. Arya's eyes widened. No. The screen went black. A loud sound filled the air like thunder. She looked up. The black hunter ship was hovering right above the tower. They had found her. She grabbed the cube and ran. Red lights lit up the field. Voices shouted behind her. Target confirmed. Do not let her escape. She didn't look back. She sprinted down the hill, through the trees, across broken roads. The wind howled, the ground shook, and energy blasts exploded behind her. Then, a bright flash hit the ground nearby, and Arya was thrown to the side. She hit the dirt hard. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. Footsteps approached. She tried to stand, but her leg hurt badly. Then she saw them, 3 black armored hunters walking toward her with weapons raised. She backed away, crawling, holding the cube close. You cannot run. One said. Another raised his weapon. Then suddenly bright lights filled the sky. A new ship roared down from above. Metal wings glowing in the dark. It opened fire. Boom. Boom. 2 hunters flew backward from the blast. The third turned to run, but was hit by a stun beam. The new ship landed fast, and the ramp opened. Joren jumped out, grabbing Arya. Hold on. He pulled her aboard, just as the engines fired again. Arya collapsed into the seat, holding the cube tightly. Joren looked at her leg. You're hurt. I live, she said through gritted teeth. Did you send the message? I tried. But they jammed it, Joren nodded. We'll do it again. Somewhere safe. The ship flew fast and far, leaving the Earth behind. Arya watched the blue planet shrink in the distance. She felt sadness. Earth had once been home to all humans. Now it was a quiet grave full of lost truths. Joren guided the ship toward a small hidden base on an old moon near Jupiter. It was a rebel safe zone. Few knew about it. They landed quietly. A few engineers and guards welcomed them inside. This is Arya, Joren told them. She holds the truth. Everyone nodded. No questions. Inside the moon base, Arya limped toward the central console. Her leg was bandaged. Her heart still burned with purpose. She connected the cube again. This time, there was no jamming signal. She played the message once more. Her voice echoed across the chamber. Then, they hit transmit. Across the net grid, the message traveled. It reached cargo ships. It reached student networks. It reached old military channels. It reached hidden rebels and silent planets. For the first time in 80 years, the truth was out. Some ignored it. Some laughed. But many listened, and many believed. Whispers turned into messages. Messages into meetings. A spark had been lit. The lie was shaking. Joren watched the screen. You did it, Arya nodded. Her face was tired, but her eyes were full of strength. They're going to come after us harder now, he said. I'm ready, he smiled. We'll fight together. She looked out the window at the stars. No, she said softly. We all will. Arya sat quietly in the moon base, her legs still sore but healing. Around her, people moved with energy and purpose. Engineers repaired ships. Fighters checked weapons. Coders sent encrypted messages across star networks. Her voice had reached the galaxy. The message had spread faster than anyone expected. Some called it a lie. Some called it dangerous. But many called it hope. Across the systems, people were waking up. In mining colonies, workers whispered her name. In learning domes, students played her message again and again on hidden rebel channels. She was called the Human Spark. Arya didn't care about being famous. She didn't want power. She only wanted one thing, freedom for the truth. But she knew what came next would not be easy. Joren entered the command room where Arya was watching reports. We've confirmed it, he said. The Galactic Trust is planning to send a fleet. Not just to stop you, to wipe out every safe zone. Every rebel base. Arya looked up. How long? 3 days, maybe less. She stood, ignoring the pain in her leg. Then we can't hide anymore. We need to fight back. Joren hesitated. We're not soldiers. We don't have to be, she said. We're human. He stared at her for a moment, then gave a small nod. Then we'd better prepare. In the following hours, the base changed. It turned from a quiet outpost into a center of resistance. Messages were sent to other bases calling for unity. Small scout ships arrived, one by one. Some carried supplies. Some carried people ready to fight. They were not soldiers. They were engineers, doctors, students, farmers, people from across the stars who had heard the truth and decided to stand with Arya. They called themselves the Line because they would be the line the trust could not cross. On the second night, Arya stood before them all. Over 100 faces watched her. Many more listened from other outposts across space. She wore simple clothes, her hair tied back, a band on her arm that showed the Earth Archive symbol. She spoke clearly, without fear. They will come for us, with ships, weapons, lies, and power. But they fear something more than our bodies. They fear our voices. They fear our memories. They fear our truth. She held up the cube. This cube holds the past, but we hold the future. The people stood. Some raised fists. Others raised tools, scanners, or even broken weapons. It wasn't a perfect army, but it was real. Far across the galaxy, in the shining towers of the Trust Council, the reaction was cold and fast. They must be crushed, said one of the leaders. She's only a child, said another. She's a symbol, the first one replied. And symbols are dangerous. The order was given. 3 warships were launched from the Council's core station. They were fast, silent, and full of deadly tech. They would arrive in 30 hours. Back at the moon base, the rebels prepared. Arya worked alongside others. She helped repair drone scouts. She helped test the defense grid. She studied maps of deep space routes and weak points in the enemy ships. She learned quickly. She wasn't just a symbol. Now she was becoming a leader. Joren came to her as the final plans were drawn. There's one more thing, he said. A surprise. He led her into the deepest part of the base. There, behind a sealed door, stood an old ship. It was long, wide, and built like a hammer. What is this? Arya asked. Joren smiled. This is the first flame. It was built during the Zorvan War. Your father flew a ship like this. She stepped closer, her hand brushing the hull. It's powerful, Joren said. But it needs a captain. Arya looked at him. Then let's light the sky. When the enemy fleet arrived, they didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect shields. They didn't expect defense drones. And they didn't expect Arya. The moon base opened fire first. Small ships flew out like bees from a nest. They weren't fast, but they moved with heart. Every ship had a pilot ready to defend the truth. The Trust fleet responded with cold precision. One rebel ship exploded in the first hour. Then another, but they didn't stop. Inside the first flame, Arya sat in the captain's seat. Lights blinked. Warnings flashed. The ship rumbled like a sleeping beast. All systems ready, Joren said from behind her. Arya tightened her grip on the controls. Target the lead ship. The ship moved forward, slow but steady. The Trust's lead ship fired. A blast hit the first flame side. Sparks flew. Metal bent, but it didn't fall. Arya shouted, "Return fire!" The old warship roared. A beam of light shot across space and struck the lead enemy ship. It didn't destroy it, but it cracked its shields. Cheers broke out across the rebel line. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Trust ships were powerful, but they didn't understand one thing. The people they were fighting weren't just rebels. They were humans who had tasted truth and refused to forget. In the final hour, the first flame led a charge. Arya gave the order. The fleet followed her. Together, they broke the Trust's line. The lead enemy ship exploded in a storm of fire. Others turned and retreated. The battle was over. The rebels didn't cheer loudly. They stood in silence at first, watching the fire fade across the stars. Then the cheers came. Slow, then strong. Arya stood on the command deck, breathing hard, her hands shaking. She had survived. They all had. But more than that, they had won. Later, as she watched the stars from the base window, Joren stood beside her. "You've changed everything," he said. Arya didn't answer at first. She was thinking of her mother, of her father, of Dino, of her aunt, of her school days. She was thinking of all those who still didn't know the truth, and of those who would never hear it. Then she said softly, "This is only the beginning." After the battle, the stars above the moon base were quiet again. Wreckage floated in space-burnt metal, broken ships, and scattered parts of the galactic Trust fleet. But inside the base, The fires of hope were burning brighter than ever. Arya walked through the halls of the rebel base, greeted with nods, salutes, and soft smiles. People looked at her with respect, now not just as a symbol, but as a leader who had stood in the fire and come out stronger. But she didn't let the pride rise in her heart. She knew one battle did not win the war. The real war was still coming. 3 days later, messages started arriving from across the galaxy. One came from a moon colony near Saturn. "We saw the battle. We want to help." Another from a cargo ship. "Captain, I have crew willing to fight. Just tell us where." A quiet message came from a teacher on a small planet near Vega. "I showed your message to my class. They cried. You gave them something we thought was gone truth." Arya sat in the comms room, listening to each one. She didn't speak. She only closed her eyes, feeling the weight of it all. People were no longer afraid. They were starting to. Rise.Jorn entered the room and placed a datapad in front of her. "You need to see this." She read the words on the screen. Her heart sank. The Galactic Trust has announced Operation Cleansing. They were not done. They were angry. And now they were planning to crush every voice that spoke against them. "It's not just us anymore," Jorn said. "They're targeting any world that replayed your message. Colonies, schools, even small research labs. They're trying to silence the truth," Arya whispered. He nodded. "Unless we do something fast, they'll succeed." That evening, Arya stood in the center of the rebel base and called for a meeting. Fighters, medics, builders, techs, and young students all gathered to hear her speak. She looked around and saw fear in some eyes, but also courage. These people were not trained soldiers. They had families, dreams, and lives they wanted to live in peace. But they had chosen to fight for something bigger. Arya spoke clearly. "The Trust wants to erase us. Not just with weapons, but with silence. They think if they burn the message, the truth will disappear." She held up the cube again. "But the truth is not just in this. It's in all of you. Every time you speak, share, and remember truth lives." People nodded. Some clenched fists. Others had tears in their eyes. "We are the voice they cannot silence," she said. "And it's time the galaxy heard us together." The plan was simple, but dangerous. Instead of hiding, they would speak louder. Instead of one message, there would be thousands. Using small relay ships, old satellites, and hidden transmitters, they would create the truth net, a network of signals across star systems, all repeating the same message. The truth about Earth. The truth about humanity. Truth about the lie. Arya knew the Trust would strike fast and hard. But if even one message reached one mind on every planet, the spark would keep burning. Work began immediately. Teams built transmitter drones. Others mapped safe routes. Rebel groups from far off colonies sent their own recordings, messages from mothers, students, doctors, and miners, each telling their piece of the truth. Arya listened to one from a boy who looked no older than 12. "I don't know what war is, but I know what a lie feels like. Thank you for showing me we're more than what they told us." She wiped a tear from her cheek. The fight was no longer about her. It was about all of them. On the 5th day, the truth net went live. Across star systems, signals blinked to life. Screens lit up. Speakers played messages. Holograms showed Arya's face, standing strong with the Earth archive behind her. From mining domes to farming stations, people stopped and listened. Some cheered, some cried, some stood in silence and just believed. The Trust reacted with fury. Fleets were launched to hunt the signals. Towers were destroyed. Bases were raided. But something had already changed. People began resisting, not with weapons yet, but with truth. On one station, workers refused to shut off the broadcast. On another, a group of teachers formed a circle around the transmitter, daring the soldiers to harm them. Rebellion was spreading, not as a war of guns, but as a war of voices. Inside the rebel base, Jorn entered Arya's room with tense eyes. "They've located us again," he said. "Trust warships are on the move. How many?" "Too many." Arya stood calm. "Then let them come." Joran looked worried. "We won't survive a full fleet." "We don't have to survive alone," she said. She opened a screen and connected to the TruthNet dot across the galaxy. The message appeared. "The trust is coming. Not for me. For all of us, we need help." Arya, she didn't expect much, but the reply was more than she hoped for. Within hours, over 24 signals came back. "Help is on the way. We're sending fighters. We will not let them silence you. Hold the line." Joran smiled for the first time in days. "They're coming." Arya nodded. "Then we're not just rebels anymore." "We're a force," he said. She looked out the window. "No," she replied. "We're a movement." That night, the stars above the moon base shimmered quietly. The trust ships were coming. So were the people of the galaxy. What began with one voice was becoming a chorus. And Arya stood in the center, not as a hero, not as a warrior, but as a girl who believed truth was worth the fight. A soft red glow filled the control room as Arya stared at the star map. Dozens of red dots blinked on the screen. Trust warships, fast and deadly, heading straight for the moon base. The final battle was coming, but this time they were not alone. All King. Across the star map, blue dots began to appear. Rebel ships, civilian fleets, mining haulers refitted with weapons, tiny scout pods, even science vessels. They were slow, they were outgunned, but they came, one by one. They answered her call. The galaxy had chosen to fight back. Joran stood beside her, reading reports. 13 allied fleets confirmed, 3 more still on the way. "We outnumber them, but not in firepower. We don't need better weapons," Arya said softly. "We need stronger hearts." She took a deep breath and stepped away from the console. It was time. Time to speak once more. In the main hall of the base, hundreds of rebels gathered, men and women, old and young, all wearing different clothes, carrying different tools, but united by one purpose. A large screen lit up. Arya's face appeared. Not just here, but on every connected ship and base across the TruthNet. She began to speak. "Today, they come to end us." Her voice was calm, yet powerful. "They bring fire, metal, and fear. But we carry something they lost long ago." She paused, holding up the cube. "We carry truth. We carry memory. We carry the human spirit." Across every fleet, every ship, people listened in silence. They erased the truth to control us. But truth does not burn. It spreads, it shines, she smiled. And tonight, we shine together. Cheers erupted through the hall. Lights blinked. Across the fleet. Every ship took formation. Some were fast, some were small, some barely held together. But none of them turned back. This was humanity's stand. The Trust Fleet entered the battle zone like shadows sliding through the dark. Their ships were sharp, polished, cold. They sent one message: surrender Arya and all rebel leaders, or be destroyed. Joran looked at Arya. She shook her head. No reply. The first shots were fired near Saturn's edge. The sky lit up in fire. Arya was aboard the first flame again, her hands on the controls, her eyes locked ahead. "Shield status?" she asked. "Holding," said Joran, "for now." They moved forward through waves of enemy fire. Small rebel ships zipped around like sparks, distracting the Trust cannons. 2 ships were hit and lost, but they didn't stop. On the other side of the battle, rebel forces were boarding a Trust vessel. They weren't just fighting, they were taking control, one by one. Enemy ships fell. Arya saw a large destroyer heading toward the main fleet. "If that one reaches the core ships, it's over," said Joran. Arya tightened her grip. "Then we stop it." She turned the first flame toward the destroyer. Engines roared. Power surged. Inside the ship, Lights flickered as every system pushed to full. A beam from the destroyer hit the first flame, metal cracked. Sparks flew, but the old warship kept going. Arya's voice was steady. Target their engine core. Joran. Locked in. Ready. Fire. A massive blast shot out, white and gold dot. It hit the enemy ship dead center. For one moment, everything was silent. Then the destroyer exploded. Cheers filled the comms. But the battle wasn't over. A second wave of trust ships entered the field. Fresh, strong, and fast, Arya's fleet was tired. Shields were weak. Many ships had lost power. They needed help. Then, a surprise out of the far side of the system. New signals appeared. Civilian ships from distant colonies. Traders. Explorers. Even old military vessels from forgotten planets. One signal spoke. We heard her voice. And we're with her. Another, for Earth, for the truth. They entered the fight without hesitation. Now the sky was filled with light ships of all shapes and sizes fighting. Side by side. It was not just a battle anymore. It was a rebirth. Hours passed. Fire filled the space around them. Arya fought without rest. She gave orders, guided ships, repaired systems. She didn't feel tired. She felt alive. In the final hour, the Trust's last command ship tried to escape. Joran tracked it. They're running. Arya stood slowly. Then let's finish it. The first flame chased the last ship across the dark. Inside, Arya sent a final message. This is Arya. You cannot silence the truth. You can only delay it. Surrender now, or be remembered as those who tried to destroy what could never die. The enemy ship turned slowly and powered down. The war was over. Back at the moon base, people cheered. Some cried. Some just sat in silence, holding hands or leaning against walls. Arya stood alone on the platform, looking up at the stars. They seemed brighter now. Joran joined her. You did it. She shook her head. We did it. He smiled. What happens next? Arya looked at the sky. We rebuild. We remember. We teach. And we make sure this never happens again. In the weeks that followed, the truth net grew stronger. The Trust Council was taken down. Trials were held. Secrets were exposed. People returned to Earth, this time not to hide or rule, but to rebuild and understand. Statues were raised. Not for soldiers, but for truth speakers, for the ones who refused to be silent. One day, Arya walked through the old ruins of the Earth Archive again. The dust was gone. Screens worked. Children walked beside her, asking questions. She answered them. With a smile, they were free now. As the sun set over the broken hills, Arya stood quietly near a tree growing beside the old hall. She closed her eyes. She could hear her mother's voice. You are human, and they fear you because of that. Arya smiled. Not anymore. Now, the galaxy respected the truth, and the girl who carried it.